everybody. Welcome back to Real Horror. We are in, well, first, thank you for joining me, Vinny. It's nice to see you again this week.
Oh, a pleasure. Tonight
Um,
I'm actually um it's like what is it? Not smell-o-vision. Um I'm eating a meal while we're doing this because I had no time today.
that's okay. That's okay. You do what you gotta do. Um, yeah, this is gonna be fun. These are great episodes. Looking forward to getting into them. And
Oh, they're fantastic.
yes. Yeah, it's great rewatching this series because like we started to discuss backstage there was a lot that we forgot and
Hmm.
yeah, so this is fun. Really having a fun time revisiting this.
Oh,
Um
absolutely. I forgot how tight the writing. I mean, I
yeah.
remembered it was good, but I forgot how good it was.
Yep. Yep. That's right. And just yeah, how much is because the episodes themselves are only like 40 to like 45, under 45 minutes really.
Hmm.
And but there's so much packed into one episode. It's like I had forgotten that. It's great.
Yeah,
um
same. I know
yeah.
we had just mentioned before, like by the time we get to the third episode, there is so much going on
Mhm.
that it's like I remember it being in the end of the series because it's some pivotal stuff, and it's like nope, it's like right here in the opening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
excellent.
I love it. And hello to everybody in the chat. We got Tony, nice to see you.
Hey, Tone.
And Adam, great to see you.
Adam.
And Stieg says Trina sent Vinny the thumb to smack Blanche around so much she'd see the stars. Oh my
Oh shit,
god.
that was great.
He's always coming up with these scenarios.
Yeah. Oh my
Vinny
god.
the thumb.
That was because of you and my reviews.
Yep. You're welcome.
Oh, that was great.
And Solo Warden, nice to see you.
What's up, man?
Yes, I agree. Horror movies are the best.
Yeah, they are.
And Adam says, after the day I had, glad to be here with friends. Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
alone, Adam.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. He left me a couple of messages. I gotta listen to those still. I only listened I think to one of them, but it's been a very long day. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know who else in the chat has been watching this series, but if you haven't, I strongly urge that you do.
Yes, yes. We have mentioned. I think we mentioned it last week, but there
Hmm.
are a couple of places online that you can find it streaming for free. Um, I can't remember what those services are now. I remember when we had
Pluto
planned.
was one.
What's that?
Pluto is one of them.
Pluto. Yes, that was one of them. That's right.
But
Um,
I've been watching them on Prime. They got them on Amazon.
yeah, yeah. I'm watching it on Amazon as well.
Hmm.
And Stieg says, I haven't seen it yet, but I will soon, so I'll leave once you start talking spoilers. All right, sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's yeah, I really think you'll like this series. It's um very much in line with Silence of the Lambs. They kept it like they you can really tell it's in universe.
Yeah. Well, it's the characters from Red Dragon.
Yes,
So
that's
that
right.
yeah. So that's technically the first. I know they went back and then did his. I didn't see the younger stuff, but I know that was way after. But yeah,
Yeah.
Red Dragon is what we're dealing with here. So like Will Graham, Jack Crawford, all of
Yes.
them. So yeah.
Yeah, and based on the novels Red Dragon and Hannibal as well.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
I never read the book, so I don't know how close it is to the actual source material.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that. Yeah. I'm not versed on that. I wanted to go
Mm,
back and get them. I ended up getting into Dexter instead.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. Some of those.
And Stieg says you'll be impressed with the meal I just made. I'll send a pic. That's very on brand to what we're talking about, so that
Hmm.
sounds great.
Although
Um,
I do not recommend eating while you're watching this show.
no, I wouldn't. No,
It's
no.
very gory.
There, I have gone to the point where with some horror, I can like compartmentalize and eat while watching horror.
Hmm.
This is not a show I would do that with because of the cannibalism.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
just
little, yeah,
yeah,
there's a bit much in there, but
yeah,
when we get to some of the bodies we end up seeing, it's
yeah,
basically like a lot of them are almost done like art. Like we haven't
yeah,
quite gotten there yet, but we're getting in that direction because I know later in the series we get to see more stuff that's way more deliberate,
yeah,
much like the films.
yeah.
But the
Like
ones that, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say it obviously, if you know Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Lecter, you know that this is cannibalism themed. It's not like we're watching him just devour a human body. Like it's not that kind. It's very like stylish,
Hmm.
which adds that kind. Even like to me, I feel like that adds even more of a creepy vibe to it.
Yeah, it's
That
like he's like a culinary expert, so
yes,
he's preparing them like he would a proper meal.
yeah,
Like if he was in a restaurant or something, and he's a top chef, like that
yes,
level.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and that to me feels even more creepy.
Hmm.
And yes, Manhunter. That's one I haven't seen yet. It's on my. It's
Hmm.
actually in my watch list though.
Yep.
Um,
Red
yeah,
Dragon's a remake, but they did it purposefully, and I think they got closer to the book with Red Dragon, but they wanted to have Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter, like all together, basically. And
mm,
it was wise that they did it because it was very, very good.
mm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. This show is very um it's very enjoyable.
Hmm.
I am just totally loving it. I wish it had gone longer than 3 seasons, but it is what it is.
I know. We almost got more when it
Yes.
went over to Netflix. They almost made a new season. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Netflix would have done a good job with it though. Even if they had only done like a couple more seasons to round it
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, like Lucifer. Like
Yeah.
they finished that one off. What did they do? 3 seasons over there?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it felt like a good conclusion.
Yep.
Yeah. Um And yes, Steve, Penny Dreadful. Um, yes, I actually did start watching it. I think I got into season 2, and
Hmm.
then I don't remember what happened, but I didn't finish. I didn't finish the series. But yeah, I
Those
was
were good.
enjoying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Timothy Dalton, Eva Green.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was pretty solid.
yeah, yeah. That was a good one as well. All right. Well, as the description says for the video, tonight we are discussing season 1, episodes 2 and 3. We'll get into season 2 right now. So, I guess Stieg, that's your cue if you don't want spoilers. Otherwise, hope you enjoy the review. All right, so we start off in this episode with we see Will at a gun range. He's practicing shooting, and instead of the where the target would be hanging down the range, he sees Hobbs hanging there as a target, and suddenly we hear knocking on the car window, and we find out that he's actually having this dream kind of nightmare.
Hmm.
In the car he's with Crawford, and they're at the Hobbs cabin, which is a crime scene now. So he goes in with Crawford, and we see like there's a deer on the table, with like the field stripping instruments and all that stuff. And then they go on upstairs, and there's antlers all over the room, hanging like all over the walls, all over the ceiling, everywhere. There's just antlers everywhere.
Hmm.
And Will says to Crawford, "This could be a permanent installation in your Evil Minds Museum." And I thought that was a good line because he
Yeah.
hates the name of that museum.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of comical.
Yeah, that
And
reference was in the first one, right? Were you
yep,
talking about that?
yep. When Crawford goes and talks to Will when Will's given the lecture, um, and he's like, yeah, we've met before, but you didn't like the museum or something like that. And he's like, well, I didn't like what you named the museum.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That
So
was good. I like their chemistry too, by the way.
yeah, me too. I think they do have all the characters like blend really well together in this series. Like
Hmm.
none of them feel like they're out of place. Um,
Right.
no, yeah, like him and Crawford feels like a natural working relationship. Him and Lecter definitely have that. Like it's like this magnetism and weird.
Yeah, it's definitely another level. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're connected on so many different wavelengths. But then you could see how um, Dr. Lecter is more. Um, because we know that he's holding things back or he's hiding things,
Mm-hmm.
and Will doesn't know this, but we as the audience do. So we could see how we know he has the upper hand on every situation, basically,
Yes.
which is even more intense.
Yes, like you and I touched upon in last week's review that it's kind of like a cat like a cat playing with its a mouse that that it
Yep.
has caught, and that is the feeling you get from them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's unsettling because like we know Lecter and everything, and Will,
Mm-hmm.
as the character doesn't, and
Yep.
yeah, it's like it's uncomfortable, but it's also fascinating to see.
Oh, it really is. Because it's
Yeah,
well, and then what we know of his character in the movies and what he had
mm,
done to Clarice and all that. It's like, what's he
yeah,
doing with Will right now? Because he's definitely playing a game, but at times he gives him certain kind of respect as well.
yeah,
It's interesting.
yes, it's a very strange dynamic.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it really keeps you riveted.
Hmm.
Um, and then Crawford says, "Yeah, what we learn about the to refresh everybody's memory, it was Garrett Jacob Hobbs that Will had killed in the first episode." Um, and Crawford says, "What we learn about Garrett Jacob Hobbs will help us, catch the next serial killer." And because there are still 7 bodies on a conifer actually. And Will
Right.
says he was eating them, and Crawford said he had this. There's had to be some parts that he wasn't eating, and Will goes, "Well, not necessarily." And then Crawford poses a theory like maybe he wasn't doing it alone. Like, it was a lot of work, disappearing all these girls, butchering them, and then not leaving a shred of anything
Hmm.
behind. And Will is kind of pondering that, and he's like, maybe someone he hunted with, and we that kind of plays out a little later in the
But doesn't Jack make a point of who he thinks it is right away?
um not
Well,
yet.
I thought he did while they were in the attic.
That's later on he does.
Okay. Oh, they
Yeah.
didn't hit the attic yet. They're still just in the bottom level.
Well, they end up in the attic twice. So the first time is when we just see the antlers, and they're looking around, and they're discussing like
Oh,
you
they
know
find the hair. Okay,
yeah,
that's
they're
right.
looking around, and so Crawford is like posing the theory that maybe he is hunting with someone.
Hmm.
And Will kind of is starting to ponder this theory as well. And then Will's like, you think Abigail Hobbs is a suspect? And that's and then Crawford starts like he starts saying like, well, yeah, we've been conducting like interviews in her neighborhood and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And he says, well, she would make the ideal bait, you know seeing as how she looks exactly like all the other girls.
Right.
And then
And then they find the hair, right?
yes, and then
Okay.
yeah, and then Will finds the red hair on the floor by one of the antlers and says someone else was here.
Hmm.
And then right after that, it cuts to a scene of we see like the back of this woman with long red hair, long it's curly, long red hair, and she's on her computer and she's looking at the crime photos from the cabin, and she ends up posting all of those photos on talcrime.com. Um, we learn who she is and all that stuff a little later.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Will at the lecture hall, um and everybody like gives him an ovation, and he's like, stop that, he doesn't want that. And then he's talking about how he caught Hobbs, and he shows the resignation letter on the screen, and he's like, you see the clues. And I think there were like a couple of people that might have raised their hand or something like
Yeah.
that.
And he
And
says there was none.
yeah, he's like, no, there was none. It was just bad bookkeeping and dumb luck.
Yep.
And
And yeah, and that's when he said that they the thing that he noticed was that there was no address.
yep,
That's what stood out to him. There was nothing else that was there. Bed, bookkeeping, and that this man had no hard line address that was actually given to them at that point.
yep, yep. And then he throws, and then it transitions from the letter to the still photo of the scene of Hobbs like in the corner of the kitchen where he died, and it goes from just being a still photo to a video, like now he's in the scene, like Will is now in the kitchen with Hobbs there.
Right.
And I loved that transition because it was very seamless from being like just a still photo to
Hmm.
um yeah, it was like the photo came to life. I like how they did that.
Yeah, that was good.
And we see Will with all the like blood on him and everything, and he's remembering what happened. They do like a recap of the first episode. I kind of for the audience's benefit, like,
Hmm.
you know. And and he says Garrett Jacob Hobbs is dead. The question is now how to stop those that his story will inspire. And he says he's already got one admirer, a copycat. So then after this lecture that he's doing, Dr. Alana Bloom shows up and asks, she's basically like she's his friend. She's asking how he's doing and stuff.
Hmm.
Um and then Crawford tells him that he's been cleared and he can go back into the field, and he's not only that, but he's up for a commendation for
Hmm.
how he handled that whole situation at the Hobbs residence.
Yeah.
And and then Dr. Bloom asks Will, she's like, do you want to be back in the field? And Crawford's like, well, I need him in the field, and but I need him to get a psych eval. And meanwhile Will's standing there like, hey guys, I'm right here.
Yeah.
And he
That
goes,
was fun.
yeah, it was kind of funny because Will goes, are we starting now? And it's like, dude, seriously, like he's standing right there.
Yeah.
And Crawford goes, Hannibal Lecter is a better fit because he was thinking that Dr. Alana Bloom could do his psych eval,
Hmm.
and then Crawford interjects and says, well, Lecter is actually a better fit since they have their relationship isn't personal. And he
Right.
says, but if you're more comfortable with Dr. Bloom, you know, we can do that. And Will is like, well, I'm not going to be comfortable with anybody getting inside my head.
Yeah. And Jack says, well, then I'll make the decision.
Yeah.
And he picked Electa, which
Yeah.
I don't know, being Will, yeah, Alana's great.
I know. I
Sorry,
know.
she's amazing.
Yeah. Like you can tell, like, there's like a little relationship kind of, it's not really starting, but it looks like it could be.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, she definitely is fond of Will. You can see that,
Hmm.
and you can tell that he is of her as well.
Yeah,
Um,
they genuinely have respect for one another, but you could tell
yeah,
that they care as well. It's not just
yep,
yeah, it's not just like the work level.
yep, yeah. It's well done because it's not they're not rushing it, and it seems like how an organic thing would happen.
Yeah, I'd say
Um,
so.
yeah, and but Bloom, she's concerned because he's never killed anyone before, and it's a lot of for him to digest. And he says, "Well, I used to work in homicide." And Crawford's like, "Well, yeah, you used to work in homicide. Um, and the reason why it's you used to is because you didn't have the stomach to, pull you didn't ever have the stomach to pull the trigger."
Hmm.
And he said, "You just pulled it 10 times." And yeah, so he's like, n- like he wants him in the field, but he also wants to make sure that like his conscience is clear if he puts him in the field.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the thing is, you could tell Jack Crawford. He's being very selfish in his
Yep.
use of Will. So
Yes.
it was a thing like he knows that he's really good. He needs him, but at the same time, Will technically shouldn't be in the field right now. He's already displaying how close he is to everything right now.
Oh
It's
yeah.
he's like an empath and a little bit more. It's because
Yeah.
of his situation. It's like with this Asperger's. He's on the fence of Asperger's and being autistic,
Yep.
something along those lines. So he's hyper focused and he could read people like nobody else.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got like super empathy, like
Hmm.
the way that he can identify with especially with killers is um just wild. It's just
Yeah,
yeah, it's like you don't often see, you don't see him identifying with victims. You only see him identifying with the killers.
right,
And but I mean that does make sense because his job is to catch these guys.
right.
Um, it's
I'd say also because like he does feel very responsible too for saving Abigail.
mhm,
So
yes,
he's got that going on, and Lecter is, from what it looks like, he's sort of faking it.
yeah,
In comparison, you could tell Will genuinely like he feels responsible, and Hannibal seems like he's given vibes where he could be genuine, but we know as an audience he's disingenuous.
yes, yes, exactly. Like unfortunately, he's got Will fooled. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, like because it's part of his charm. And I also think that Will might be fascinated by Lecter as well. Um,
Yes. Because
yeah,
again, he brings a lot to the table. It's not just he's a super genius, but on
mhm,
top of it, it's everything else like his background is, and
mhm,
he's got that extra class and charm. It
mm,
isn't anyone you would expect to do anything bad.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because they make a note in this uh, episode that you know Lecter has written papers on social exclusion and all that stuff. So this is a learned guy. He's very respected in his field. So it's it really makes sense that it's someone that Will would look up to.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and yeah, he just and um Mads Mikkelsen has, as Lecter, has this presence in the show that's like, um, he very much commands the room that he's in.
Yes. A
It's
lot of his acting is like that, but on this show in particular, because I mean, like even when he played the villain in the James Bond movie, like he was really good in it, but he also brought something extra to the table. With
mhm,
Lecter, it's like another level.
yeah,
If that makes sense. It's just yeah, this guy's really bringing a lot to the table. Of he sucks all the air out of the room, but he's very I don't, very stoic in his approach to everything as well.
yeah,
And that thing about his like the structure of his face, it's very skeletal.
yep,
So there's moments where you have like the lighting or the shading or how depending where he is, you could see like his eyes almost get completely sunken in, the cheekbones pop out more. He looks very devilish.
Yes, yes, they do play with the light very much on him.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's so well done, so
Hmm.
well done. And so, yeah, while they're discussing all of this therapy and stuff, Will is like, therapy doesn't work on me. And Crawford is like, well, that's because you won't let it. And Will says, well, I know all the tricks, but as we know, he obviously doesn't because he's getting played
Hmm.
by Hannibal.
Yeah.
Um, and Crawford says, well, perhaps you need to unlearn some tricks. And and then Bloom is like, well, why not just have a conversation with Hannibal? I mean, he does know what you went through, being he was there and all.
Hmm.
So now we see Will at Lecter's office, kind of having a, not really a session, but kind of in a way. It's more of like just to get the psych eval signed off on,
Hmm.
because Will's in the upper part of the office because he has like that library on top, which is so cool. There's like a
Oh
um
yeah, yeah,
yeah, there's like a walkway around the upper part of the room, and that's where his all of his books are. It's just such an awesome room.
yeah.
And Will's up there,
Yeah,
and
the design of everything, like man, it's just it all works. I don't mean to cut you off. It's just like yeah.
yeah,
Now that you bring that up, yeah, because his whole setup is very unique. So like when we see him doing his culinary thing, everything is so extra immaculate. But then you get to like his office, and it's there's a slight warmth to it with everything that's very personal in there.
hmm,
But yet it's still you can still have that sense of it's very cold.
yeah, yeah. This kind of, yes, yes. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
um at his house things are very sterile and almost industrial. It's almost like an industrial design where it's like metal and glass and things are cold and everything like that. And in his office it's like he tried to make it a warm inviting environment, but even the color scheme, the burgundy and gray and
Hmm.
everything, it doesn't quite get there. Like
Yeah.
it's like how do people who have this warmth decorate? And it's like he tried to emulate that and didn't quite make it.
Right. Yeah.
It
Was it queer Hannibal guy for the street guy or something?
yeah, he needs to have a decorator come in. But no, it's actually it's really a beautiful it's a beautiful setting, even in spite of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's no warmth. Even though there's red in the room, it's not a warm red.
Right.
It's just, yeah,
Yeah, because there's a lot of like monochromatic type
yeah,
colors in there, and
yep,
but it's good. It would work for like his patients who come in.
hmm,
That it feels inviting enough,
yeah,
but yet there's still a thing where you could tell like he's obviously going to have more power or more a little something extra, or
hmm,
over whoever's in there. His
yep,
authority, I guess you would say.
yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so Lecta's holding that paper and Will is like, is that my psych eval? And Lecta's like, yeah, you're, congratulations, you're functionally competent and more or less completely sane. Well done. And it's just, he didn't even try. He just totally rubber stamped it. And Will actually says, did you just rubber stamp me? And Lecta's like, yes, you know, Crawford, Crawford may lay his head to rest, knowing that he didn't break you, and that your work can resume, that our work can
Hmm.
resume, unobstructed by paperwork. And it's like it's so messed up because it's like this guy is a psychologist and
Hmm.
he's absolutely not concerned at all with Will's well being, and Will is he doesn't even see that.
Will's surprised by it. He's kind of relieved by it, but then
Yeah.
at the same time, he knows like, wait, shouldn't we have actually done more? And Hannibal's just like, no, like I could see you're fine. It's like we need to continue this. We need to catch who this is, and like he's playing it off a certain way where it's enough where Will's like, like I'm on board. He's questioning it, but not that much because he is more relieved that he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to jump through all the hoops.
Yep.
Since I think Jack and Alana, when especially as they were talking in front of him, was almost like belittling to him or treating him like a child. Whereas Hannibal's like, "No, you're fine. Like, let's
Yeah.
go."
Yep. Yep. I can.
So
Yeah.
it's that part of that manipulation that Hannibal does that's so subtle, but makes perfect sense to the way that the writing is.
If it is it. Oh man, it's so well written because if you think about it, really, what Lecter is doing, the way he's acting with Will, it's like he's grooming him,
Yeah, kind
like
of.
being like, oh yeah, these people, think of Alana Bloom and Jack Crawford as Will's parents, because
Hmm.
it's almost like that's the presence that they have in the show.
Right.
And then you've got this guy Lecter who is like, no, you're an adult, you can handle this. It's
Yeah, it's
it it's actually very devious.
it is. It is. He's a son of a bitch. It's really good though.
And yeah, so Will says, Jack thinks I need therapy, and like just like, well, what you need is a way out of dark places when Jack sends you there. And Will says, last time that he sent me to a dark place, I brought something back, and he's referencing, Abigail Hobbs, the
Right.
daughter.
Yep.
And Lecter goes, like a surrogate daughter, um, and he says, you saved her life, but you also orphaned her. That comes with some moral obligations, regardless of empathy disorders. So he considers Will to have an empathy disorder now.
Hmm.
And Will says, well, you were there, you saved her life too, do you feel obligated? And the way that they did this, so Lecter turns to look at Will, who is still at the top part of the office. He's in the library portion. He goes, yes, I feel a staggering amount of obligation. I feel responsibility. I've fantasized about scenarios where my actions allowed a different fate for Abigail Hobbs. Now, we know what that different fate would be.
Hmm.
See, and it's
Yeah.
like, dude, wow.
Yeah,
And
it's good. Yeah, because again, we know Will doesn't. That's what makes
yes,
it even more enticing. And we're at the edge of our seat with everything that's happening.
yep, yep. It's awesome. It's awesome to be like in the know in this way.
Hmm.
And then Will says Jack thinks that Abigail helped her dad kill all those girls. And Lecter pulls the "How does that make you feel?" And Will kind of scoffs at that, and Lecter goes, "Well, I find it vulgar." And Will goes, "Me too." And then Lecter adds, "And entirely possible." And Will says, "It's not what happened." And Lecter goes, well, Jack will ask her when she wakes up, or he'll have one of us ask her. And Will goes, "Is this therapy or is this a support group?" And Lecter goes, "Well, it's whatever you need it to be."
Hmm.
Um, and he says, "And Will, the mirrors in your mind can reflect the best of yourself, not the worst of someone else." And then it cuts to kids like hiking through a trail, and then they find like this, well, what seems like a mushroom field.
Mushrooms. Yeah.
And they're like, what is this? And one of the kids is like, I think it's marijuana plants. And then they find an arm with like an IV in it. And
Yeah, like a leaf kind of brushes away, yeah, and you see this just hand, just it's kind of propped up, like something's holding it.
yeah,
And yeah, it's like what do you call it? Those plastic strips that the police use when they don't have the handcuffs.
yeah, like one of those zip tie things.
Yeah, there you go. The zip tie,
Yeah,
and the hand is like zip tied to a piece of metal, and yeah, and you see the IV thing that's stuck in the hand, and it's going into the dirt or into the ground,
yep.
almost like how you would, I don't know, like put up like tomatoes or something in a garden.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It looks like some
Mhm.
kind of garden. Um, and and then as the camera kind of pans out, we see that there are a
They're
bunch of
row, yeah.
these.
There's like a row of them.
Yeah. Yep.
There
And
was do we know how many there were? Because there was quite a few.
yeah, there ends up being, we find out that there are 9 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so the next thing we see is Will at the gun range. He's practicing, and the one of the FBI agents, Kate, she comes over and kind of helps him with his accuracy and stuff. And and she's like, I didn't realize that firearm accuracy is a prerequisite for teaching. And Will's like, well, I've been in the field before. And Kate's like, yeah, now you're back in the saddle ish. And Will is like, ish indeed. Took me 10 shots to drop Hobbs.
Yeah.
And, and it will take some more shots. And Kate's
There's
how,
a yeah, like a tip with positioning of
yep,
like his yeah, because we found out he's got like a screwed up rotator cuff. I'm
yep.
telling you, I feel just like Will at times.
I know, right? Yeah. And he's like, did Jack send you down here to teach me to shoot? And she's like, no, Jack wants me to find out what you know about gardening.
Yeah, he
And
gives her that look. It's almost like a CSI episode or something.
yeah, yes,
And then they get there and wow, it's some visual.
yes.
Because they got a couple of the bodies out of the ground, and it's almost like The Last of Us. How like they have like because in that game and I guess the show like it's the mutated fungus thing that's on them, but since it's all like mushrooms, like
Mm.
it's like layered like that. It's really creepy and disturbing.
Yeah, yeah. It's, oh man, it's so messed up. But yeah, the crew, like the crime scene crew, is all over the scene. They're like digging up the bodies and all that stuff, and assessing the area and all that, um and and then yeah, that's when we find out the one of the agents goes, yeah, there's 9 bodies in all various stages of decay, and all very well fertilized. um and Case goes, yeah, he buried them in some high nutrient compost, so he wanted them to, he was very enthusiastic about their decomposition.
Hmm.
um, and then the other FBI agent guy goes, they were buried alive with, the intention of keeping them that way. Well, for a little while anyway. And then, yeah, and then one of the guys chimes in and says, long enough for the fungus to eat away at any distinguishing characteristics. And like it shows, um, the the FBI agent Kate's, like she takes the tape off of one of the bodies, and like skin comes off with it. It, oh man, it's so
Yeah, yeah,
nasty.
off the mouth. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the lips stay with the piece of tape, and you just see like
Yeah.
the teeth and the yeah.
Yeah.
It's disturbing.
It is. It's nasty. It's like
Yeah,
a zombie.
but with that one in particular, because yeah, they're like they have most of them out of the ground, and there's just that one, and
Mhm.
then we see that redhead with the curly hair. She's like standing in the crowd. Um, who did she say she was? One of the parents to the boys
Yeah.
that found the body. Yeah, she's making up story. You could tell she's a liar right off the bat. And there's this black detective guy who's kind of giving her like a little bit of info as like they're just having friendly banter basically about what's kind of going on.
Yep.
And that's when you see like the area gets kind of cleared, and Will's kind of doing his thing where he's visualizing like he did with those other bodies at the other crime scenes.
Yep.
And yeah, as he's kind of doing that, um, yeah, they're still having their conversation, and then like Will did it reach out and grab him, or did it just make a noise? No, it grabbed his arm, didn't it?
It does it, yeah, so as he's like doing his thing where he kind of deconstructs a scene and then reconstructs it as if he's the killer.
Mm-hmm.
He's at one point kneeling down by one of the graves, and he imagines that it's Hobbs in the grave, and this kind of knocks him out of his like zone that he goes into.
Yeah, because he keeps seeing Hobbs.
Yeah.
it's a reoccurring thing. That yeah, it's you could still tell he's completely shaken by it, but there's something more that he can't quite see yet.
Yep. And then and then as he's yeah and so as he's still in that like kneeling position and he's over the grave, all of a sudden um the the body that's in that grave like reaches out at him, and this like it obviously freaks Will, and he's like he screams like we need an EMT and stuff. And so one of them like was alive, and he we see him like gasping, but he doesn't have the lips or anything, he just has the teeth.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's almost something out of a horror movie, and Will
yeah.
completely shaken, like he's completely like broken out of
Yep.
his thought process and everything. He's just kind of like he's like laying back where everyone's kind of running over.
Yes.
Um, it's a visual.
Oh yeah, it really is. And then that scene ends, and we do find out a little later that the one that was alive ends up not making it.
Yeah.
Um, and then back at Lecter's office, Will puts the psych eval on Hannibal's desk and says, may have been premature." Um, and he's like, "Well, what did you see out in the field?" And Will's like, "Hobbs. I saw Hobbs."
Hmm.
And Lecter goes, "An association." And Will's like, "No, it was a hallucination. I saw him lying there in someone else's grave." And he asked if he told Jack what he saw, and Will said no. And Lecter goes, "It's just stress, it's not worth reporting.
Hmm.
You displaced the victim of another killer's crime, um, with what could arguably considered your victim." And so this is where his head games really start coming in.
Yeah.
um calling Hobbs his victim, like that's messed up.
Hmm.
And Will is like, "I don't consider Hobbs my victim." And like is like, "Well, what do you consider him?" And Will goes, "Dead." And then Lecter goes, "Is it hard feeling the thrill somebody else feels killing, like when they're killing, now that you've done it yourself?" And Will is like hesitant to answer, but then he doesn't answer verbally, he just kind of nods, and he like nods his head yes, like
Hmm.
it's he's like totally freaked out by it. And
Yeah.
Lecter seems to be disappointed by his answer, like he wants Will to be able to put himself in the killer's um you know
In his headspace, as
yeah,
if he actually is able to do it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you get to because throughout the first two episodes already that we've seen, like Will had that connection with them.
yep,
It's almost disturbing how well he knows their motives and almost passionate about it too. Because like when they found the copycat of Hobbs' victim, the girl in the field who's stuck in the antlers, uh, he has that moment too where he's like protective over. Um, how the other bodies were cared for. He was like, this one was like discarded like a piece of rotten meat. Like he didn't care. The other ones he cares about them. He's very adamant. He gets very very passionate about how he is saying it and how it's like a normal person wouldn't react that way.
yes,
So
yep.
yes.
And so Lecter ignores his disappointment and looks down and says, "So the arms, why did he leave the arms exposed?" And Will says, and then he no, I'm sorry, and then he goes, "What was it, to hold their hands, to feel the life leaving their bodies?" And Will is like, "No, that's way too esoteric for someone who took the time to, bury the victims the way he did. Like this guy is way more practical than that."
Hmm.
And Lecter said he was cultivating them. And Will says he he was keeping them alive. He was feeding them intravenously. And Lecter says, "But your farmer let his crops die." Well, save for the one that he didn't. And Will said, "Well, the one that didn't died on the way to the hospital. So, yeah, he died too."
Hmm.
And he also says, "Well, they actually weren't crops. They were the fertilizer their bodies were covered in fungus. And Lecter goes, "Oh, the structure of a fungus mirrors that of the human brain."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he says it's an intricate web of connections. And Will says maybe he admires their ability to connect the way that human minds can't.
Mm-hmm.
And Lecter says, "Yours can." And Will kind of laughs and is like, "Yeah, not physically though." And Lecter says, "Is that what your farmer is looking for? Some sort of connection?"
Mm-hmm.
And then the therapy starts to conclude, and we see that there's someone outside of the like on the other side of the door holding up a device. This person is recording the session. Um, and then Lecter walks over, opens the door, and like just before he opens the door, she hears him coming, so she puts the device in her bag and stuff. And then Lecter opens the door and he goes, "Miss Kimball," and it's that redheaded girl
Mm-hmm.
from the crime scene. Um, and she's like, "Yes," and he's like, "Good evening, please come in." And she walks in and she's like amazed at the office. She's like, "I've never seen a psychiatrist before." And she's
Yeah,
like,
she's playing dumb too. Like
"Yeah,
you could clearly tell like the story she's making up, and then right away, doesn't he call her out on who her actual name is?
yeah." Well, yeah, he kind of lets her play her game for a minute, but he knows. You can
Mm-hmm.
tell he knows by the way he just his demeanor and the way he's looking at her.
Yeah, he's
And
like,
she
cut the shit, Miss Knowles."
Yeah, yeah. And so she said, well, this was a funny line. She says, "Well, I'm interviewing a few therapists, so it's more or less like a bake-off," which is a funny
Yeah.
turn of phrase with
Uh-huh.
this show.
Right.
And he goes, "Well, I'm very supportive of bake-offs."
Yeah.
And then he goes, "It's important you find someone you're comfortable with."
Mm-hmm.
And then that girl says, "I can imagine you as my therapist," which is good because if I can't vocalize, if I can't like open up emotionally, I know it would be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "May I ask you why now?" And she goes, "Well, do you mind if I ask you a few questions first?" And he's like, "Sure." And she goes, I love that you've written so much on social exclusion, since that's why I'm here. I'm wondering." And then he goes, "Are you Freddie Lowndes?" And she looks like she's been caught. Like you can tell. Um,
Wait, what
he
was her last name again?
Freddie Lowndes.
Oh, Lowndes. Okay. Oh, I got the
Yep.
name wrong. My bad.
Yeah. And she's caught, so she fesses up and well, she doesn't fess up yet. Because
Hmm.
he continues on saying, he goes,
But
you know,
she puts on a disappointed face, like, "Oh,
yeah,
he got me."
yeah, like yeah, she in her mannerisms she admits it.
Mm-hmm.
And Lowndes, and hey Tommy, nice to see you.
Hey, Tommy.
And yeah, and then he goes, um, I what does he say? Yeah, he goes, "This is unethical even for a tabloid journalist."
Hmm.
And she stands up and she's like, "I'm so embarrassed." It's like, no, she's not.
Yeah.
And like the goes, "I'm afraid I must ask you for your bag." And she's like, "What?" And he goes, "Your bag, please hand it over." And you can tell that now she's uncomfortable. And like, I don't blame her because I would be like, no. He goes, "I'd rather not take it from you," which is intimidating as hell.
Oh, yeah, the way he says it too, and it's like
Yeah,
she's basically locked in his office.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he is not looking friendly at all. But
No.
he's still keeping his class and his charm about him. But just his delivery alone, and she's like, she has no choice. It's like because he goes,
Yes.
basically, he almost insinuates like she's breaking a law as well by doing what she did.
Yes, yes, he does. He does kind of lie to her. She ends up handing it over, and um, he looks in it, and then looks up at her, and she kind of looks like she got caught with her hand in the cookie jar,
Yep.
and he said she says, "I was recording our conversation," and he goes, "Is that the only conversation you recorded?" And she's like, "No," and And he's
Right.
like, "You were persistent in your appointment time. How did you know Will Graham would be here?"
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Well, I may have also recorded your session with Will Graham." So he says, "You didn't answer my question. How did you know?"
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "I can't answer that question." And he sits down on like the couch he has in his office, and he goes, sit by me." And he pets the couch, and she sits next to him, and he's like, "I need you to delete what you've recorded." And he says, "Doctor patient confidentiality works both ways."
Mm-hmm.
It actually doesn't. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
But she you he's intimidating without even trying.
Yep.
And so she actually she does what he says. She deletes it, and then he puts it in a purse and sets the purse down. And he says, "You've been terribly rude, Miss Lowndes. What's to be done about that?" And then
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, so the way that they did this, so after he said, he just looks at her, "What's to be done about that?" It cuts to a scene of a dinner plate with meat on it,
Mm-hmm.
and we see green beans. And also, did you catch the mushrooms on the plate as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was good.
All right. All right. I'm glad you caught that. Um, and it's Crawford and him
Jack
having
Crawford.
dinner. Yes. And
No,
he
no, no, Will Graham. Just Jack Crawford.
and Crawford is like, "Oh, oh, I'm sorry." Lecter goes, "This is loin served with a Cumberland sauce of red fruit. I have no idea what Cumberland sauce is." Anyway,
Me neither. But
that
they're very thinly sliced pieces of meat
yes,
that he
it
has there.
yeah, and the way they transition from him and her on the couch to that
Hmm.
made you think like, is that her on the
Right.
plate? And Crawford goes, "Loin, what kind?" And Lecter, of course, goes, "Pork." Because another name for human meat is long pork.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's just like, of course it's pork.
Yeah.
And then Crawford is kind of like, he's like, "I don't get to eat a lot of home cooked meals." And he talks about how his mother didn't wasn't a good cook and everything, and his wife isn't a good cook. And he goes, "Oh, you should bring your wife next time. I'd love to have you both for dinner."
Yeah.
And so they're talking, and um Crawford's like, "Oh, this is lovely." He takes a bite, and he loves it and everything. And he's like, "Will came back to see you." And Lecter says, "Yeah, he must see some necessity, you know, of having his own support system, for him to go back in the field." And Crawford says that, I believe Will knows exactly what's going on inside of his head, which is why he doesn't want anyone else up there." And Lecter says, um, and Lecter has a different demeanor when he's talking to Crawford than he does with Will. You can tell that there's not there's a little kind of like a veiled contempt almost.
Hmm.
But he says, "Are you not accustomed to broken ponies in your stable?" And Crawford says, "You think Will Graham is a broken pony?" And Lecter goes, "No, I think you think he is." And he says, "Have you ever lost a pony before?" And Crawford said, "If by pony you mean have I ever lost an agent in the field, yes. Why do you ask?" And Lecter says, "Well, I I want to know why you're so, delicate with Will, and because you don't trust him, or because you're afraid of losing another pony." And Crawford is like, "I've already had my psych eval." And
Hmm.
Lecter's like, "Not by me." And he's like, "You've already told me about your mother. Why stop there?" And then they both kind of laugh and clink their glasses.
Yeah.
Um, so that ends well. And then we're back at the FBI lab where they're working on, investigating the bodies and stuff. And Will asks about like what they were fertilized with and everything. And um,
And
And
when they that's when they told him or let him know, uh, or was it Will that says they were all, no, it was Will who said it. They're all diabetic,
yes,
all the
yes.
victims.
So they revealed that all these people died of kidney failure,
Hmm.
and that they found dextrose in the like the catheter things, that's how they were being kept alive with sugar water basically,
Yep.
and and that's what caused the kidney failure.
Yeah, and that's also what helps like the mushrooms grow quicker too.
Yep, yep, because mushrooms like thrive in a sugary environment.
Hmm.
Well, fungus does.
Fungus. Yeah.
And Will says so he was force feeding them sugar water, and then they start talking about how recovering alcoholics crave sugar, and like pose that as a theory, like maybe these people were recovering alcoholics, and Will is like, no, they were diabetics, um and he's like, alcoholics aren't the only ones with compromised endocrine systems, and he's like, they all died of kidney failure, and that's when it clicked, like they the death was by diabetic ketoacidosis.
Hmm.
And Kate says, did you know they were diabetics? And Zeller goes, we don't know. And Will says, no, they were all diabetics. And he says he induces a coma and puts them in the ground. And Kate says, how was he inducing diabetic comas? And Will says, he's changing their medication, like the diabetics, so they're insulin, dependent. And
Hmm.
he's like, he's got to be changing their medicine. So maybe he's a doctor, or pharmacist, or someone in the healthcare field.
Right.
And and uh, and they're like, well, we just dug up his mushroom garden, and Will's like, yeah, he's gonna want to grow a new one. And then it cuts to, we see
A pharmacist.
pharmacy. We see a woman picking up her insulin, and a pharmacist switches out her medication, and he's like, oh, I just need to make sure that that's your actual, that's your current address. And so right off the bat we know that that's him.
Yep.
And then we see like the SWAT and all the officers and
Yeah,
stuff
because
kind of.
well, what's also interesting is you could tell he's sizing her up. It wasn't just that like the little banter that they have.
Yep.
He gets it out of her like, cause she, oh yeah, I'm newly divorced or whatever. Like
Hmm.
these little tidbits, and you see how he's just kind of subtly getting this information from her.
Yep.
And yeah, like we could tell right off the bat because we know kind of, you know, something like that what he's looking for. But yeah, when she confirms that the address is yeah, that's the correct one or whatever, it's like, okay, red flags, run.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. And then yeah, and then we see
But yeah,
Croft.
yeah, because while they're having that discussion, whatever, and he finds out that she's single or alone, that's when he goes
Yes.
to the refrigerator and he switches the medicine. Oh, I made I made a simple mistake. Well, you wouldn't want to have the wrong one here, so like, and then he gives her the one that was beside it in his little refrigerator.
Yep. Yep. She's a good target because newly divorced, so probably and she's young, so probably no one would be missing her for a few days.
Right.
So yeah, definitely opportunity, like good opportunity with her.
I
Um
wanted Chris Hansen to just show up. I'm sorry.
um and then like another patient comes in, and then later on we see Crawford and Will walking through, it looks like a warehouse. It's like the back of it's like where they keep extra stuff in a store, this like storage
The
place.
like the loading dock area
Yeah,
of the store. Yeah.
yeah, storage area, whatever.
Hmm.
And we see and then they're talking. Crawford says she's the 10th diabetic client of this chain of pharmacies, to go missing after filling her insulin prescription. And he says all the missing people are all tied to this one pharmacist, and now they're actually making their way through the store. They they tracked him to this location. He's actually still logged in um, into the pharmacy computer, and it shows the pharmacist manager filling a prescription, and Crawford and Will get there, and Crawford's like, everybody put your hands in the air and all that stuff, and and then find out that the guy Emmett Stamets that they're looking for is actually not in the store, but he was just there. And Will's like, take me to his car. So the guy takes Will to his car in the parking lot, and Will grabs the baton off one of the guys and smashes the window, pops the trunk, and
It's loaded with dirt, and he starts digging it, and he finds the girl,
yep,
and she's alive, she's alive. He's just screaming, and they're coughing, they can't breathe. It's all fertilizer and dirt. It's
yep,
yeah, yeah, not a pleasant smell that makes.
yeah. Oh man, oh god, it's gross.
Yeah.
Um,
Manure! I hate manure!
and then
Sorry.
and then one of the agents goes up to Crawford and says, "We have his browsing history." And Crawford's like, "Do I want to know?" And he's like, "Well, yes and no, but mostly no." And he's like, "All right, just take me there." And so they're looking through it, um, and if it turns out that this pharmacist was browsing tattlecrime.com, that's that
Yeah, that the
crime.
redhead,
Yeah,
her posts basically, because she's putting some really nasty shit up about Will.
yeah, she wrote that like that the FBI is using someone with a demented mind to hunt the psychopath because he's also a psychopath, and like she's just awful.
Yeah,
She really is just awful, and we see on the
the
article is
yeah
a picture of
trash,
Will.
yeah, trash tabloid stuff type stuff, which is could easily hurt their investigation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's yeah. Handy Bill Leopard, can't believe you guys are watching a show like that. It's Tommy.
What?
And then back at Lecter's office, he's reading that same article, and he goes, you're naughty, Miss Lowndes." And and he's just kind of saying that he's alone in his office, but he says that out loud.
Mhm.
And so when he says that, it's like we know, oh, so she's still alive. He didn't serve her for dinner.
Right.
And then we see Lowndes in a hotel, and then all of a sudden knock at the door, and the FBI, come in, and they zip tie her hands, and they go to arrest her. And Crawford is trying all these like intimidation tactics, like you did this and you did that, and she's like, and that's not illegal, and that's not illegal. So
Yeah, she's very confident.
yes,
She's coming off like a psychopath too, to be quite honest.
yeah, she really does. She does have that look. I noticed that too.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and like I really took note of how she knew that she didn't break any laws. Like she was morally repugnant, but she wasn't criminally liable for anything. But
Hmm.
hey, Crawford like plucks a hair off her head and says, "You left one of these at the crime scene, which is contaminated a crime scene, which is obstruction of justice,
Hmm.
and that is something I can arrest you for." And then she's like, "Well, I'd really like it if you didn't arrest me." And he says, "Well, if you don't write any more articles like you did about Will again, I won't have to."
Hmm.
And so that situation ends. Um, and then we are at the hospital room, where Abigail Hobbs still is. She's been in a coma this whole time. Um,
Hmm.
Graham is asleep, and he is dreaming of like a giant deer walking by, and hears like the deer's footsteps. In real, like in the waking world, um, Alana Bloom is walking into the room, and she sits on the bed and starts reading to
Yeah.
Abigail.
She takes off her shoes as not to wake up Will either. She's
Yes,
being extra considerate. It was like very deliberate that they showed that.
yes, that's right. And yeah, yeah, she has a lot of consideration for Will.
Hmm.
And then as she's reading, Will wakes up, and they start talking and everything, and she can tell that he's feeling bad about Abigail, and she's like, "Don't feel bad about Abigail. You saved her life. She's a success for you."
Hmm.
Um, and so that's how that was left. And then Lowndes is leaving that motel. I think it's in next day. I'm not really sure when it is, but she's leaving the motel, and then the detective that she was talking to at the scene of where all those mushroom bodies were is waiting like outside. So she goes down the stairs and talks to him, and she's like, and he goes, half that stuff you wrote didn't even come from me, which is like leads us to believe, well, who did feed her the information?
Right.
I
But
have
the
an
way
idea.
the way he's talking though too, because he's like, "You're gonna get me into serious trouble here," and she starts to downplay it and is like, "Well, I could get you some work elsewhere, and I've helped
Yep.
other like other detectives." Basically, he's like, "Wait a minute, so oh you screwed up other people's careers in the past,"
Yep.
and she's just like she's almost like gleeful about it.
Yep. And yeah, like that. Oh man, she's
She's a
awful.
Yeah, she's a piece of work, all right.
And then like as they're yeah, because the last thing he said was, "I'm not the first cop you've gotten fired," and all of a sudden we hear a gunshot and we see blood spatter on her face.
Yep.
Um, and then it's we see that it's that pharmacist from the one that was filling those, well, switching the insulin prescriptions,
Right.
the one that the FBI is looking for. And he says, "I read your article. Tell me about Will Graham." And then later on at that scene, the agent's there and everything, and um, she asks where Graham is, and the pharmacist was talking. Yeah, okay. So the pharmacist was talking about how people have the same properties as fungus, and that he was and that he's after Abigail Hobbs. And when she tells Crawford this, Crawford gets on the phone and tells Will, who's at the hospital, and he's like, Stamets knows about Abigail, and then
Yeah,
he,
because Will had just arrived. He's
yep,
getting off the elevator, and he looks like kind of like tired and mopey. He gets that call from Jack, and you can hear him faintly on the phone too. And he's like, right away, Will pulls his gun. He's like, he's there. He's looking for Abigail.
yep,
So yeah, it was a really good moment, intense too. And he's running in the hospital, and you see there's a cut of the pharmacist, and he had just gotten to the hospital, and you see him go into a room, and he changes his clothes, and he puts on scrubs.
yep,
So like he basically did like uh, good old Hans Cock in The Fugitive. He pretends he's a nurse or something, and yeah, so you see him kind of like going in that direction. But by the time we see Will and he opens up the door, her bed's empty, and
mm-hmm,
he goes right out to the nurse that's in the front. He goes, "Where's Abigail? Where is she?" She's, I think they brought her to do tests or something."
yep,
Yeah, he's like flipping out, and he's running around trying to find her again, like a maniac in the hospital with his gun out. Um, he goes down. He goes by the stairs, and he goes down like a floor or two, and
mm-hmm,
you see like the hallway, and the pharmacist has her in the bed, and he's like wheeling her down the hall, and that's when Will pops up,
yep,
and yeah, he sees right away he's got a weapon or something, and he shoots him in the shoulder. He falls. The pharmacist drops his gun, and Will runs over and he kicks it away from him. And then they have a little bit of dialogue before we get to another scene. And he made it sound like they have like a special connection or something to it, or whatever. I've read about you, like you could see the pharmacist is almost like he's got a fascination about Will, and uh, that he's gonna help him finish his work or something. He's like what, like we're nothing alike. You're a psycho.
mm-hmm,
Like, what the hell are you talking about?
yep. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, he's talking about how fungus is connected, and like if, like he should have let the pharmacist bury Abigail, Because like when you're walking through like a field of fungus, the fungus reaches out for you and stuff like that is
Hmm.
absolutely like psychotic.
Yep.
Um, and and yeah, and Lecter and Will have a strange conversation um after that whole thing, like after he catches Stamets. Yeah, it ends with this scene of Will and Lecter in Lecter's office, in his office, and Lecter goes, "When you shot Stamets, who did you see?" And Will says, "I didn't. Well, I didn't see Hobbs." And Lecter goes, "Well, then it's not Hobbs' ghost that's haunting you.
Hmm.
It wasn't the act of killing Hobbs that made you feel bad, was it? Because the act of killing him felt good." Um, and then Will goes, "I liked killing Hobbs," and he kind of like it terrifies him. Like he terrifies himself to admit that out loud.
Yeah.
And Lecter goes like, "Killing must feel good to God too. He does it all the time. And are we not created in His image?" And 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 he says, and Will is like, "Does God like killing?" And Lecter's like, "Well, God's terrific. You know, he killed a, what do you say about a church of uh like was it like a full church or something like that? It was something messed up."
I can't
and
recall.
and then Will goes, "Did God feel good about that?" And Lecter goes, "He felt powerful." And it's like just a eerie, very
Oh
eerie
yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. Something along those lines.
Yeah, and it's and that's how they end that
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah, like Lecter's really he's pushing a little bit more in that direction. It's like as a viewer, you're like, where is he going already? Like it's his because
Yeah.
it's the thing where he's playing with Will, but now he's getting into these other like these discussions, which it seems almost uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's not just like an intellectual banter thing.
Hmm.
It's you could tell that he's prying more into it. Like he's testing the thought process of Will
Yeah.
and what he's like okay with versus you know it's really good. It's smart how they're doing it.
Hmm. Yeah. They're really like, you can see that they're having Lecter kind of like trying to provoke the killer in Will.
Hmm.
Um it's just it's so.
But yet there's still like enough of uh respect kind of thing,
Hmm.
like that he's feeling more open into even talking about stuff like that with him.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they're doing it and how it's playing out.
Hey, Time Prophet. No, we just got done reviewing episode 2, and we're getting ready to head into episode 3.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that was a great episode. That was a full episode.
Yeah, there's so much that they're putting into these.
Time Prophet really wants elephants. He says he hopes we get elephants in episode 2. We haven't seen elephants yet.
Although, but there's going to be like a gorilla in the room soon. Oh
Oh
shit!
man.
But
Um
yeah, it starts to get pretty heavy pretty quick.
yes. So this kind of really rounds out the um so episode 3 ends up rounding out the Abigail Hobbs kind of like a, I guess you'd say, our origin story, or kind of, yeah, I guess it does kind of begin her story.
Hmm.
It's like it kind of explains her father,
Yeah.
and then her, and yeah, it's there's a lot in this one too. So it starts off with we see um Hobbs and his daughter hunting. She misses her first shot, and then she ends up hitting, and it's a female deer, which I thought was odd.
Mm.
I didn't. I thought I didn't know that they hunted does. Um,
Yeah, I'm not a hunter, so I don't. Yeah, I don't really know.
Tommy asks, at what point do they get to the fava beans and a good Chianti?
Well,
Well,
he was having a bit of he didn't have
yeah,
the fava beans, but he definitely had mushroom and meat with Jack.
yeah, and I get the wine. I guess you could. I guess yeah. He definitely is a wine connoisseur because when he was having that meal with Crawford, the way he kind of like uh like swished the wine in his glass and then like breathed it in as he was drinking it, you can tell that he definitely likes his fine dining, just like
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter in the movie
Hmm.
Silence of the Lambs. So yeah, it's very much on point.
Yep.
So yeah, we see them hunting, and then they bring the deer back to their hunting cabin, and Abigail seems a little kind of like a little terrified in a way. But he's like, none of this will be wasted. We're gonna honor the deer by using every part of her. Nothing will be left, and all that stuff. And then it shows like her, and he has her do the field dress. Oh, what is that called? I think it's field dressing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, basically like to gut it and clean it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, because
Yes.
he gives her the knife to
Yep.
make sure she cuts like the fur off, and but he's very deliberate too, and like he goes, don't go too deep. If you hit the organs, it's gonna ruin all the meat.
Yes.
It's and you can see that she doesn't want to do it at all. She's disturbed that she even had to kill this thing, and he's trying like to teach her, to train her, but you could see he's being very creepy about the whole process.
Yes. It's very weird. And time prophet. Yes, I did know that. Rudolph is the female deer. Yep. All the males lose their antlers in the winter.
Look at
Well,
that.
whatever. It's tradition. Anyway, so yeah, like and then so really creepy when she's kind of like running her hand through the fur.
Hmm.
It switches from the deer fur to the hair on a woman's head, and
Hmm.
you see like the the dead woman, like you can tell that she's dead, like it's all gray and
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that
because then
was
she pulled the head back and like you see it looking up
yeah. And then when she sees that, she wakes from
from the
the
hospital.
coma,
Yep, yep.
and then now we're at Will's house, and Alana Bloom shows up, and he like let the dogs out, and he's just in his underwear, and he's like, why are you here? And he's like, I didn't even hear you show up. And she talks about how it's an electric vehicle, it's good for stalking and everything. And they kind of enjoy a little bit of
Hmm.
like lighthearted, friendly banter and stuff.
Right,
And
but
and
he wants to keep her modesty. He's like, I'll go in and get a robe.
yeah,
She's like,
yeah,
well, I've grown up around brothers. I don't really care if you're in your boxes or not. And
yeah,
more importantly, like the reason why she's there, and she says
yeah,
it's because Abigail she had just woke up. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, instead of grabbing your robe, let's grab some coffee.
yeah, yeah. That was good. Um, so
And
there,
I think Alana liked the view on top of it because she kind of stopped him twice from grabbing a robe.
yeah, she was like, "Oh, you don't need to do that."
Oh
um,
shit.
so yeah, so they're actually at Crawford's office, and they're kind of going back and forth like, well, who should be the first one to talk to Abigail? Um and Alana Bloom is like, I don't really think that it should be Will or Lecter, because it shouldn't be someone that was at, especially Will. I think she said Will.
That
Um
saved her.
yeah, because like you know yeah, like he's the one that actually killed her father, so that
Mhm.
would be too much trauma. And so it
Well, but at this point too, though, Jack is kind of convinced, like, or he convinced
mhm.
himself that she must have been the father's accomplice.
Yeah, yeah,
He,
he's been convinced that she is in on it.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah, to some degree. So that's why like Alana wants to go there and feel her out as well,
Yep.
and she wants to use like her kind of psychological tricks, sort of, in order to gain her trust.
Yep.
So yeah, like so she does pop up there, and she's got like a bunch of like bags of clothes and things, and you could see that some you could tell that this girl's definitely affected because she's like reading a book, and as she comes in, it's everything's kind of like matter of fact, you know?
Yeah, her reaction is bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Alana, Dr. Bloom shows up and she's got all this stuff for Abigail, like really trying to make sure she's comfortable. She's like, I got a bunch of music on here for you if you don't like that. I got a bunch of iTunes gift cards you can have, and like Abigail isn't even like thankful. She's just like, oh, okay. And
hmm
yeah, it's like what a weird affect that she has.
Yeah, because like they mentioned the mother, and she almost is like, well, when's the funeral or whatever? And she's like, there is none. Like
Yeah.
her body is in her will says to be cremated, and she
Mhm.
looks a little shocked in the face by it, but then right away asks about her father, and
Yep.
she goes, well, that's a different story because of what happened, because the father killed the mother, but
Yep.
then how he died. Um, Will having Will shoot him in the chest 10 times.
And
Uh,
then she goes right into, I want to sell the house. I want to, have some money for this and that. And
for
you can,
college, yeah,
yeah, like, and you can see on Dr. Bloom's face, like she's clocking this reaction. You can tell.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it was good though. It was good. Like
yeah.
it's very creepy. They're leaving us kind of with that unsettling feeling with this girl of, okay, so was she definitely the accomplice, or is she just disassociating right now because
Yep.
of how evil the father was and what had happened? Like they kind of leave you in a weird place with that.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely keep the question open
hmm
for a while. Um and then they're back at Crawford's office again, and he's like, he just wants answers. He's very impatient,
Yep.
and Bloom is like, it's way too early to question her, about the about what happened and about her father and everything like
Yeah,
that.
because Jack just wants to go in there and question her even further. She's like, if we
Yeah,
do that, we're going to break that trust bond. She was trying to build trust with the clothes, the music, this type of thing. And because we have to ease it in basically. Because if we don't, yeah, she's going to see us as the enemy as well and completely shut down.
yep, yep. And then yeah, and Lecter asks how she seemed, and Bloom is like surprisingly practical.
hmm
And so they bounce her on the theory again that she's an accomplice to her father. And Crawford is like, he really wants Will to talk to her, and Bloom is like, no, no, not yet, and all that stuff. Um and Crawford turns to her, and he's like, you're not Will's psychologist, Lecter is. And um and then um and then that scene is done, and then Will is given a lecture on the Minnesota strike, and it shows a photo of Abigail and her father, and they're in their hunting garb, and he's talking about how, all the girls that have gone missing look exactly like his, well, not exactly, but very
hmm
much like his daughter,
Right.
and that the last girl, the killer definitely wanted them to know that he is not the Minnesota Shrike. Like, um, he that last kill definitely was a copycat.
hmm
And then
Yeah, because they brought that up because they said, yeah, this is like we have to catch this, whoever this accomplice might be, because we're getting copycats. Because
mhm.
she's, yeah, again, her reaction, she's good, this actress who they picked for Abigail,
Oh
because
yeah.
they have like it's a hard read on her. You could
Yep.
tell something's definitely wrong, and it could definitely be for the events of what had happened.
Mhm. Yep.
But she's showing signs of almost like Will's behavior to certain things
Yep.
or his
Yep.
reactions.
It definitely it keeps you guessing. Like it could go either way. Like
Yep.
you're not sure. You're just not sure. And as he's given this lecture, he said, did Hobbs know his copycat?" And then he talks about like how that call came in and how it's an untraceable call, and he's like that call could possibly have been the copycat killer. And then we see Hannibal, who is watching Will give this lecture. He kind of smirks.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I liked that. And then we see Freddie Lowndes, that reporter girl. She is visiting Abigail in in that psychiatric hospital, and Abigail says that you know like she wants she well Ab- Abigail wants to know what happened, like who can, like she wants to know what Freddie knows, and Freddie's like, well, she wants to question Abigail. Like they both want something from each other.
Right.
Um
But right away, doesn't she paint a terrible picture of Will right off the bat, and does confirm that he's
yep,
the one that shot her father dead.
yep. And yeah, she's like talks very negatively about Will, says that he's like um a psychopath basically and all that stuff.
And
And
as she does, Will comes into the room.
yeah, and I did. And another thing that was really interesting in this scene is that as Freddie Lowndes is like talking to Abigail, she's like, "Now you have to understand that how people perceive you right now is how they're gonna is like that's what's gonna like go with you for the rest of your life." So she's kind of like telling her like, make sure you put on a good like
Fake
face,
face. Yeah.
yeah, and
Hmm.
have a good story and all that stuff, because like the perception is reality and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, Abigail's like, I don't care about perception. And Lance is like, well, you really need to care about it. And and that's when Will uh and Lecter enter the room.
Yeah.
And Will is like, will you excuse us, please? And then
And
he and
Freddie tries to hand her card to the girl, and Will snatches it out of her hand.
yes, and Will says, I'm special agent Will Graham," and then Lowndes goes, well, by special agent he means not actually an agent at all."
Hmm.
And then and then yeah, she ends up leaving, and then Abigail actually does remember Will, and she says to him, "You killed my dad."
Hmm.
And and then Lecter is like, well, how about we go for a walk? And so they're walking and everything, and Will is like, I'm really sorry that we couldn't save your mom. And she says, yeah, I saw him kill my mom and stuff. And then she starts saying like, my father was he was very loving until he wasn't. And Will is like sympathizing with her, and he says, "I believe you that he was loving, and that you probably brought that side out in him."
Hmm.
Um, and and then she kind of sits down and she goes, "I'm gonna be." She's like, "Am I crazy too? Am I gonna be messed up as well?" And then you see another smirk on Lecter's face.
Hmm.
And it's like he's keeping this some secret.
Yeah.
And then she starts talking about nightmares, and she asks Will, if killing somebody, even if you have to, does that still feel bad? And Will says, well, yeah, it's terrible.
The worst feeling in the world.
Yeah. Um, and then Will and Lecter are leaving that place, and of course, Lowndes has been waiting for them. She approaches, and Lecter it keeps trying to kind of like fend her off, and she tries to. you can tell it's insincere. She
Yep.
like insincerely apologizes, and she's like, I'm sorry for what I said and all that stuff. And she's like, we both may have our own reasons for being here, but I think we both care about what happens to Abigail. And Will goes, you told her I was insane. And she's like, I can undo that. And she has like no emotion in her
Yeah.
eyes.
Or I can make it worse.
Yeah, and then yes, and Will goes, you'll help. Okay, so you'll help Abigail see me as more than just her father's killer, and I help you what with your online sales. And she goes, or I can make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, Miss Luns, it's not very smart to piss off a guy who thinks about killing people for a living.
And then as he says that, we cut to Jack Crawford in his office reading that exact part. And he goes, Will, I guess you're not even thinking, are you?
Yeah, and then Crawford turns to Lecter and he's like, how could you let him say something like that? And
He's
Lecter's
a
like,
grown
well,
man. He could speak for himself. He's
yeah.
like, apparently not. He goes, I guess neither one of you were thinking. I love Lawrence Fishburne. And his
Yeah,
delivery is
he's
always so
great.
great.
Yeah, he's a like yeah, they're all just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Crawford is like Crawford says that Abigail wants to go home, so let's let her go home. And his agenda is like he wants to invoke her memories. He really just needs information from her. That's like all he cares about.
Yeah.
He wants to close his case and stuff because he just is absolutely convinced she's an accomplice. And Bloom is like, that would be totally reckless. She could end up just it could be disastrous for her. And then he's like, Crawford turns to Lecter, and Lecter agrees with her, and he says, but I do see a scenario where revisiting the scene could help prevent denial and also kind of help healing. And that's a load of bullshit.
Yeah. He wants to go to the house. He wants to see things for himself
Yeah.
and to gauge the reaction of Will as well.
Yes. Like this is like those serial killers that revisit their scenes.
Yep.
Yeah, he wants to go see his handiwork because when you think about it, it is part of his handiwork because he made the call which made the dad kill the mom.
Mother,
And
yeah, they're on to you. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
make your escape or whatever.
Yeah.
Because had the police just raided right off or the FBI had went straight to the house, he probably wouldn't have had time to done what he did.
Time for a bit. I wonder if Hannibal will become a vegetarian season 2.
The answer is no.
Can you imagine like how
No. Oh
what
God.
kind of low budget B horror movie would it be where instead of like a cannibal, it's a vegan like
Well, it's basically you're asking the what if question. What if Disney bought the rights for Hannibal Lecter?
Okay, take that back.
Oh shit! We get what Time Prophet just said.
But yeah, so yeah, he
Take that back.
And so Crawford goes, well, since there seems to be a divide in opinion, I'm going to go with the opinion that serves my agenda, which is we go to the scene. So, I mean, at least he's upfront and honest.
Yeah.
Some fava beans, some carrots. Oh, that's great.
Shit.
With his,
would you sit down for some carrots and fava beans?
What's it, the tofu? With the tofu?
Oh. No, you take that back.
Somehow that's more gross than long pork.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man.
Holy shit.
So, yeah.
Tofu or cannibalism?
I know. Like, are these really the only options?
Jesus. Holy shit.
Yeah, so they
Let's
end
go
up
hunting for deer.
So they go back to the house. They all load up and it's all of them and they all go to the Hobbs residence,
Yep.
and as soon as they get there, we see
Spray paint.
cannibals.
Yeah, spray
Yeah,
paint all over the house. It says
yeah.
cannibals, and what was the other thing was on? That,
Um,
that,
the
that was on the garage.
yeah, I would think it was written on the garage and the front door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was the same thing. But yeah, they are definitely
Yeah, she's
uh
petrified. You could see it. Like she's like, what the? You
yeah,
know.
yeah. And it also seems odd because um why would the neighbors think that she had anything to do with it? That that's one thing I couldn't understand.
I thought. Oh, well, just the father in general, though.
Yeah, the father, and
Because it
then
wasn't. It's not really so much that they think that she did it. They just think that the whole family's fucked.
yeah,
Yeah, because the father killed the mother, and then she was in this coma. But apparently, I guess the reports and stuff came out that she used to hunt with her father. So I guess it's just like neighborhood gossip, maybe.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. So yeah,
it's like when someone goes online just going, "Everyone's a narcissist, narcissist, narcissist."
oh dude, oh man, that's getting ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Uh huh. But it's something
Um,
of that same capacity, right? It's this
mhm,
bullshit gossip or from disturbed minds in the area because of their assumption. So they
yep.
like, yeah, oh, there's someone still alive in that family. They still have to be, they're probably cannibals as well, or whatever.
Yeah, it's like how when in like the old days the torches and pitchforks.
Yeah, basically.
Um so then the scene cuts to Freddie Lowndes, that reporter girl. She's meeting with a guy who ends up being the brother of
One of
uh
the victims.
yeah, one of the victims. The victim that
One of
was
the body who's still missing, though, right?
she was the one that he's the brother of the one that was done by the copycat. They think it's a copycat. It's she was in the field.
Oh, okay, okay, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, her name was Cassie, I think.
Hmm.
Um yeah, so he's her brother, and Freddie's like, you know, I just thought that it would be important for you to know that Abigail has woken up. So what a nefarious little jerk she is.
Yeah,
So now we're back at the Hobbs residence, um and yeah, we see the spray paint. They and Abigail walks up to the porch and she sees the blood stain, and
yeah. And
um
and Will's having visions of the father again, like and like
yep,
what he kept repeating. Well, it's
yep,
repeating in his head basically.
yep,
What do you say?
yep,
You see now? It was something like that.
yeah, like uh see it, or something like that, yeah.
Mhm.
um and then as she looks down at the blood stain, she says goodbye, mom, and then she goes in the house. um I just think that was a very odd.
Yeah, her whole reactions and behaviors are very strange.
Yeah, just really, really weird.
Hmm.
And so they go in, there's we see like there's evidence boxes and everything has been cleaned up, and she's like, why did they do this? And there's pictures on the refrigerator, but they're turned over. And I didn't know that, but I guess crime scene uh cleaners do that. If there's any pictures, they leave them face facing the other way on the refrigerator.
Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So
Yeah, me neither.
that was a little fun fact.
Hmm.
And then yeah, like she's talking to Will, and she's like, do you do this often? Do you go to a scene and imagine what it's like to be a killer? And he's like, yeah, very often. And she asks him what did it feel like to be my father? And just odd. And
Yeah,
then he's like, it was like talking to a shadow suspended on dust. And her reaction was, no wonder you have nightmares. And
yeah.
it's like so non-emotional. She's just
Cold.
fucking weird.
Yeah.
And she yeah, he asks about the phone call and asks if she recognized a voice or anything, and she looks up at Lecter and she goes, I've never heard it before. And then Lecter smirks, and they have um it's a moment. It's like a little tiny moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, oh, is he a vegetarian vampire duck? That's
Count Duckula?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
well, wait,
Wasn't that his name?
was that his name?
Believe so. I used to watch that.
Yeah. Um, and then she asks
Yeah,
like, "Can you
Count
catch
Duckula. That was it.
Count Duckula?" Yeah, yep. I get that I get him confused with Darkwing Duck. Um, and he goes,
Oh, yeah, yeah, we with the hat.
she goes, "Can you catch someone's crazy?"
Hmm.
And Alana says, "Well, there's something called folie à deux, which is like two people can kind of
That's when the cops take Joker in and they bang the Joker out of him.
dude,
Folly ado.
I cannot stand that Batman voice."
Sorry.
Yes, no, I
Is
was
it because it's too accurate?
yeah, like, well, it's that voice in that movie was so bad. I just hated it.
Yeah. Or in the third one in particular. I didn't mind it so much in the first two, but the third one was just like, oh my god.
Uh, uh, I wish I could edit it out, but
Yeah. I'll do a
um,
voiceover for you.
do it, but not like that. But don't do that la la la. Like do it in a do it in a regular voice.
Oh shit.
Anyway, so she wants to. Okay, so this is weird, right? She says, let's recreate the crime," and she points to. Well, she goes, "You can be my dad," and then she's points to Alana. She goes, "You can be my mom,"
And
and
you could
then
be the guy who called on the phone.
yeah,
And when
right.
the look that they give each other is just like, oh, okay.
It's an extended glance, and it's a very like whoa.
Yeah.
Um,
And as that happens, is that when the other girl comes in?
yeah, and then
Yeah. I guess one of
yeah,
her
and then
friends from the
Abigail
neighborhood.
says, you won't find those other girls. He used all the parts, like, and then talking about like what he did, like nothing was wasted because that's how you like that's the way she learned to hunt. Like you honor the animal by using everything, and and that's actually a Native American thing. But
Yeah.
but he said
But
he
yeah,
even
hunters are
made
supposed to do that as well. Yeah.
yeah, and she said, and he even made plumbing putty out of elk bones, and they one of them, I can't remember who it was, asked like, "Can you show us where he did that?" And then all of a sudden a friend of hers shows up, and it was like, wow, this girl looks exactly like Abigail.
Yeah.
Um, it was just whoa, it was weird.
Yeah. She looked a lot like her. I'd say
Yeah.
just hotter for sure. Abigail's more kind of homely looking.
Well, I
Um,
mean, I don't think
like
she's
she's well,
homely. She's average.
she's pretty, but she has like a very kind of almost plain Jane quality to her.
Yeah.
Where this other one comes in, she has more of an attitude, like that kind of bitchy hot girl,
Yeah.
like that type of a person. But you could tell like she cares about Abigail, and she like they go outside to talk,
Yep.
and what was she saying to her?
Well, she was just basically saying like, people think that you did it, but I don't think you did. But then she's like, well, the hunting should have been a giveaway. And
Hmm.
then Abigail looks at her and she's like, no, I don't think you did it.
Hmm.
Um and then there's this, and then that brother that we saw meeting with Freddie Lowndes, um
He
he
pops out of the
he
woods.
pops.
There's like a
Yeah.
very small creek in between them, and he kind of pops up like, and
Yep.
he's kind of like almost taunting her and like trying to make her feel like shit, or I know
Yep.
you're responsible too, or something like being a shithead basically.
Yeah, yeah, saying like, like, would you do it? Did you eat her organs and everything like that?
Mhm.
And yeah, and then they're like, go away. And
Yeah,
one of them, I can't
but but
remember which.
but Abigail, she's acting like a normal girl, like because as he's doing that, like you can see she's scared and she's like,
Yeah,
well, why are you saying that type of thing, like, and that's when the other girl's like, fuck off, and she's grabbing the rocks and throwing it at him. Um,
Yep.
yeah, she's throwing a couple of them at him, and then he does get clipped in the head, and he's like, ugh. He starts to get frightened and startled. You can see a little cut on his head, and that's when you see Alana, Will, and Hannibal kind of coming around like out from the outside, and he kind of runs into the trees again where he snuck out from.
Yep.
He
He
scurries away.
escapes. Yep. And that girl's mother, her name is Miranda, I think it is, or Marissa.
Maybe
Marissa,
Marissa.
so with something like that.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
mom is like,
The mother's really pissed. Like,
yeah,
come back home, whatever. And
yeah,
that Marissa, like, she snaps back at her mother.
yeah, because like her mother doesn't want her seeing Abigail,
Mm-hmm.
because like this is the gossip of the town now.
Yep.
And she's like, you need to go home, and the girl is like, why are you being such a bitch and everything, and she ends up going.
Yeah. And hey, you notice how Hannibal gives like a look like, oh my god, he just called her mother a bitch.
Yes.
That's not very nice.
Yep. He clocked that, and he watched her walk off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then
And then
they're walking around, and
Will wants to take a look. Like he hops over that little creek, and he's kind
yeah,
of looking around. And Hannibal's with them.
yeah,
Hannibal notices a rock with a little bit of blood on it, and he kicks the leaf over it so that
yes,
no one else sees it. And then he tells Will, maybe we should call this in.
yep. So interesting that he did that.
You could tell right away he's already nefarious, and he's concocting things already.
Yep. And then next we see Will. It's at night, and Will sleeping, and he's having like one of his nightmare things, and he's dreaming that he's Hobbs. And the deer is in the dream again still,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and he as Abigail's father slashes her throat, and as he does that, he wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the poor guy, like he is just absolutely like wrecked by these nightmares.
Yeah, he's being tormented by all this shit.
Yeah. So now they're all back at the cabin again, and she when she goes into the cabin, so it's all cleaned up, but she remembers how it looked, and we see the flash of the dead girl on the table again, and it's like it's a flash of her memory.
Mm-hmm.
Which has me thinking, like, was she an accomplice?
Mm-hmm.
Um and yeah, she's
Real
like,
quick, do you recall everything with that storyline or no?
with what storyline?
With Abigail, or as you're watching it, like because like I remember bits and pieces here and there of kind of how it plays out later on. I was just curious as you're watching it, do you recall any of that situation?
Yeah, I remember it.
Okay.
Is there something in specific that you're referring to?
No, I was just curious. Because like as we're kind of going through it, because there is a very like again the psychology behind each character and
Mm-hmm.
how they write these things is it's very deliberate and it's really good because it's like it leaves you hanging there like okay, oh, what's gonna happen next kind of thing.
Yep.
But I do know that as they were in the cabin like they're looking around and she's kind of surprised of how things are or whatever. But as
Yeah.
she's talking, something hits her in the face and it's
Yeah.
a drip or a drop or something, and then she looks up and there's blood hitting her in the face, and the camera pans up and you see like the floor is like soaked through and like blood is coming through. So Will runs to the attic where it's coming from, where all the antlers were, and in the midst of all that, again, and the shot's really good too because it's backlit from that window, and yeah, you see like the antlers, and there's a body that's a new body that's been placed on the antlers, and it's that girl Marissa or Miranda or Marissa, I think her name was.
Yep, Marissa. I've got it
Yeah,
in my notes right here.
yeah, and she's just again hair all down in the front of her face. Yeah, she's killed, and you see like the pool of blood under, and as Will's like walking towards it, Abigail pops up behind him, and she starts screaming, and he grabs her, going downstairs, and yeah, it was really fucked up to see that girl was already killed.
Yeah, that was such a scene.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and now, yeah. So they're looking. So they're doing the crime scene thing, and Will is now wondering if Abigail knew um that kid. The brother's name, I got it in my notes right here, is Nicholas Boyle.
Hmm.
Cassie's brother, the girl that was in the field.
Right.
Um, so Crawford is actually wondering if Abigail knew um, it- Cassie or Nicholas Boyle. Like, he's still working this theory that Abigail is the one, like is a accomplice,
Right.
and he
But
thinks that,
didn't they find something in this girl's mouth, the one that's hanging there?
yeah, there's like there's skin or blood or something like that
They said
on the
there was
teeth.
other DNA, like as if she
Yeah,
fought back a bit, or something along those lines.
yep,
And yeah, that they have to match the DNA up or whatever. But
yep.
hmm.
And that is important because of when Lecter hid the blood in the when that kid Nicholas was in, like, showed up on them and saying like, I think you are the killer and
Yeah,
stuff.
the rock that hit him in the head.
Yep, yep.
So
And Lecter
yes,
hid that.
yeah, so you could see that. Yeah, the Lecter clearly he's attempting to frame this kid
Mm-hmm. Yep,
as like the copycat, or.
yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then yeah, and so Crawford is like, well, it's kind of odd, you brought Abigail comes back now, and now this girl is dead. It's like, things are, come on now, like, add
Hmm.
things up. And Lecter says, no, I think Nicholas did it. And it's really odd that Lecter would even pose that theory to begin with.
Hmm.
Because he's
It's
not an investigator, he's just
hmm
like
yeah,
a
it's almost like he's outing himself early, kind of thing.
yes. Yes, exactly. Like, he really needs to create this diversion.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's got something up his sleeve. And then Will says that Abigail says she didn't know them, but Crawford is now thinking that Will's being manipulated by Abigail because Alana did say that, she does have a tendency to manipulate.
Hmm.
So yeah, like, Crawford isn't budging. He is definitely like, Abigail's an accomplice, and that's where his mind is staying.
Yep.
Um, and uh, yeah, and then he starts like, Will is like, well, no, she said she didn't know him and all that stuff, and then Crawford is like, well, Will was wrong about the copycat killer, because after Lecter said, oh no, Nicholas did this, so now they're thinking that the copycat killer is Nicholas. Crawford is like, well, Will was wrong about the copycat killer. I want to know what else he's wrong about. And Will goes, whoever killed the girl in the field, her name was Cassie, killed this girl too. I'm right about that.
Hmm.
Um, and then he says that the wound patterns are the same, same kind of mounting, humiliation, everything is the same as the girl in the field.
Right.
And then Lecter says Abigail is not a killer, but she could be the target of one.
Hmm. So
Yeah,
they want to get extra police detail on her, and they
yep,
want to get her to safety. So she needs some belongings from her house,
yep,
is what it looks like. So like they all kind of go back over there, and as they do, the mother of the daughter, who was just found, is like flipping out and cursing at her, and
yep,
Trey, this is your fault. This is you, you sick bitch, or whatever.
yep.
And the cops are trying to keep her over the line and whatnot. And this is the one thing that they kind of that bothered me a little bit, is how inept the security is around this girl and in this house in particular. Because isn't Freddie pop up there?
Um, yeah. So yeah, there's a couple of things that kind of had me raising my eyebrows. So
Yeah.
yeah, Freddy pops up, and I can't remember who it was, but I think maybe even I think it might have actually been her that says, you need to fix the perimeter around the house and everything, because
Hmm.
she was able to just walk on the scene.
Right.
So that's scene contamination. Like, she tends to do that a lot.
Hmm.
And and then then they start escorting her off, and Lecter stops her, and he says, have you seen a man looking around? Obviously, he's referring to Nicholas, and she says, well, I'll tell you if I have, if you tell me why it's important.
Hmm.
And then we see Abigail inside, and she's crying and stuff, and she's holding like a pillow that looks like it's made of leather and quilted together, though, kind of like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
she's hearing like her father's voice again in her
Yep.
head, basically of using every part. So she
Yep.
grabs one of the knives out of the box and she cuts into it, and instead of like feathers or something in there, you see that she's pulling out actual like women's hair,
Yep.
like bunches of it, and she starts like freaking out and almost having like a panic attack. And as she's doing that, you hear another voice, and someone pops up in the house. As I mean, there's too many people just popping up there,
I
um,
know.
and it's yeah, it's that guy, the brother of
Yeah,
Leslie,
Nicholas
yeah,
Boyle.
Nicholas,
Yeah, he's like, I'm
and,
not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want to talk to you.
and
I did
she's
not kill that girl.
yeah, she's scared out of her mind. She's kind of running away from him. That's when he grabs her and slams her against the wall, and he's trying to repeat himself again. And
Yeah.
that's when she still has a knife in her hand, and she plunges it into his chest.
Yep.
And he's like he doesn't even have time to talk. He's just like done. He
Yep.
just collapses, boom, and
Yeah,
she's
he just
shaking.
falls backwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like shaking. And at that time, what was it? Hannibal and
Yeah.
Alana were upstairs.
Yeah, Alana's calling, like she's calling for Abigail.
Mhm.
Um and then
Or was
suddenly,
Abigail calling for her?
no, Abigail was like walking up the stairs. She's got blood on her hands, and she's like freaking out.
But I thought
And
didn't she freak, or she said something because Alana, she almost was sort of like rushing towards her.
she may have, I she didn't call out for anyone in particular, but she was freaking out.
Hmm.
And that's when Alana was calling for Abigail, like she was
Yeah.
looking for her,
So yeah, the
because
two. Oh
this
yeah.
yeah, because this happened in the lower part of the house.
Hmm.
um
Yeah, and they were up. What, like in her bedroom or something. They were getting
or
there was something upstairs.
yeah.
And as both of them are walking, Hannibal quickly grabs Alana with both hands and just like by the head and slams her into the wall, like
Hmm.
almost as hard as he could. And you see
Yep.
Alana go down, and Hannibal running down the stairs, and he meets up with Abigail right there on the stairs. And yeah, there's like some creepy shit right off the bat. Like what happened? You tell me everything. Show me everything that happened. And um, yes, they were like standing over that kid's body, and he proposes something to her.
Yeah, yeah, so he gets in her head. He's like, this isn't self-defense, Abigail. You butchered him.
Hmm.
And he says, well, they'll say you were an accessory to your father after they see this. And he says, but I can help you. Tell them that, he attacked you, and then he ran off, and I'll help you hide the body.
Hmm. Well, he kind of left it in one of two ways. He goes, because this will haunt you, and it's not going to end. Um, but he goes, I'll tell them what I could like that,
Yep.
or it'd be even easier, and I can make it all. We could all make it disappear if yeah, if you want me to help you hide the body. Like he put it in a way of like an ultimatum kind of thing.
Yep.
Like it's one or the other type of deal, and you like the way he sold it. You're definitely gonna want to hide the body.
Yep. And nighttime prophet, thank you for hanging with us.
Yeah, have a good night, man.
Yeah. Um Yep. And then next we see Bloom's in the ambulance, and she's like, I don't I didn't see anything. I just, all of a sudden, I just saw black um, and uh, Abigail and Lecter, they basically like they've set the scene to make it look like, um, Nicholas did it and um, all that stuff. And yeah, so that was a plan the whole time.
Hmm.
Like Lecter is very calculating. This was his plan the whole time,
Yeah.
and it really makes you wonder if he didn't even have this plan back when he first met Freddie, because she's the one who was like, "Oh, I think it's important to tell you that Abigail woke up."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like she's in on it too.
There's a lot of moments for sure. I'm thinking it like throughout the series. I remember even when I first watched it, I'm like, wait, how much was he orchestrating this shit?
Mm.
Was it from the very start? Was it at a certain point? Did he just like enjoy his shit that he was seeing and then he's like, okay, I'll jump in now? Like, yeah, it's really good. It's intriguing of kind of how all that stuff is playing out and works out.
Yeah. And then the episode concludes with Hannibal's in his office, just doing his thing, and then he suddenly says, "Hello, Abigail," and she's like, "How did you know I was here?" And he's like, "Well, you escaped the hospital. There's nowhere else for you, nowhere else that you can go." And so she was on like that upper level
Hmm.
when and he didn't even have to like look up to know she was
Yeah, he
there.
knew she was there, but he was upset that she climbed up there.
No, no, no.
I thought he had
Um,
said something along those lines, like you shouldn't. I thought he said that you shouldn't be. How did he put it? He had a very kind of deliberate wording
was now I can't
of
remember.
of how she got in there. Because I
Yeah,
mean, he was dismissive, like because he knew that she was there, but then
yeah,
in the same token, when she did come down, he kind of almost like reprimands her.
yeah.
You
I
know?
think you're right. I
Hmm.
think you're right about that. I just can't remember, and it's
Yeah, because it looks like he's still trying to do like this kind of power,
mm-hmm.
this authoritative thing over her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
And
yeah.
then she comes down, and the thing that she's upset about is that she didn't honor Nicholas, so it's really just a murder.
Hmm.
And she's got like things are very twisted in her head,
Yeah.
and she says to Lecter, she's like she knows you're the one that called my dad, and she says, I think you're a serial killer just like my father, and he says, I'm not
I'm nothing
like,
like your father.
yeah, I'm nothing like your father, and then um and he says something else, and then they kind of end it with they agree to keep each other's secrets.
Yeah,
So
because
it's like,
but yeah, the way that he worded, he definitely confirmed that you were the man on the phone. I remember.
mm,
So
yeah,
he's so
like,
yeah, and then she goes, yeah, you're a murderer too. Like she
yeah,
basically like that, and
yeah,
that's when they kind of, it's like they almost come to an agreement of
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and the look on her face when when they're like they're agreeing to keep each other's secrets, like you keep my secret, I'll keep yours. She has like this weird smile on her face. She is very messed up.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's not just because of Lecter, but he's definitely adding to it.
Yeah. Yeah, like he has definitely found someone he can work with.
Hmm.
But yeah, great episode, man. They
Good.
pack so much
I
stuff
know.
in this.
Did they get back to Alana? Like when she woke up or whatever? Because Alana's not dead.
No, the last we saw Alana, she was in the ambulance saying that she didn't remember what happened. She just remembered like she blacked out, and now she's sitting in the ambulance.
Yeah, something about going to her. She heard Abigail like as if she needed something. She needed some kind of help, and she was going towards there. And then she was just being knocked out,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't know how.
Yep.
Which again, that scene was something else though when he did that. I'm like, oh, what's going on here?
I know.
Yeah, it was really violent. They're
Yeah.
just like both hands. You just see her hair her head getting smashed into the wall from behind.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It escalated quickly.
Yes, it did. But see, and that's the other thing though that does bother me in that episode, and it bothered me in the original too, or when I originally saw it. It's okay. So we have Freddy is basically on the outside there, the perimeter, and like, oh, I have such bad security here. Then we have the kid that Nicholas was able to get in there. Then we have Hannibal and her are going to hide a body while police are outside. Like what?
I know. There's obviously no.
Mm-hmm.
There's like nobody is guarding the perimeter for
Mm-hmm.
them to be able to take the body
Yeah,
away.
no one's even turning around to take a look at the house.
Yeah. Like there should be detail on her 24/7.
Yeah.
Like and yeah, this is
Now
it,
I get the assumption too. Yeah, right, she's in the house with two psychologists or whatever.
yeah, but I mean that's not really like you
Mm-hmm.
want trained
Yeah, yeah,
officers protecting you like
for sure. But I mean, like I figured, I guess, all right, you get the ones outside, and then yeah, she has people she trusts like inside with her. So I guess in a way, you can look at that. But at the same time, still, now there's a body, and there's people all around. There's people outside. Like
mhm.
you know, it's the one thing that kind of bothered me.
Yeah, there's not it's not very real like we know it's not realistic.
Yeah,
Um
it's almost like you could tell it was like super rushed or something,
yeah.
like that particular moment of that scene.
It
But
was definitely like it was definitely for plot expedience.
yeah, I'd say so. But I mean, even having said that, this still was a super fantastic episode. There was a
Mhm.
lot going on, like you said. They packed in a ton in here.
Yes. Yeah,
'Cause
very.
they're definitely moving this story.
Yep.
Yeah, it's excellent stuff all around.
Yeah, these were great episodes, and I like how episode 3 kind of rounds out Abigail's story, and now we like we have something to like we have a starting point for her descent into madness as well.
Yeah,
Like yeah, this is good,
yeah, very good. Let's
but
see.
yeah,
I know I wanted to get. I was ready to start watching episode 4 as soon as it finished. I'm like, I can't, because then I'm gonna get it confused. And then not only that, we're doing another series on my channel. Uh,
yeah,
we're doing Arcane, and yeah, like I didn't even. I had started watching before I decided I was gonna do those start covering it. Like
mm,
I got up to like midway of episode 4, but I figured let's talk Hannibal first before I even start rewatching episode 4. So on Sunday we're going to be doing that. We're going to be going episodes 4, 5, 6 of Arcane on Netflix,
all
and
right,
I'm really looking forward to this because I want to hear and see like what your views are on this, because I know this is completely new to you. You didn't see any of it or yet, but um, yeah, I'm really curious, and I'm looking forward to Sunday because there is a lot that happens on that on Arcane, and the time jump and all these other characters, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
yeah, yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, so that wraps up the review of episodes 2 and 3 of Hannibal season 1. And yeah, I had an absolute blast doing this with you again, Vinny.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's this is it's a joy. Like I said, this series was something I really had a good time with when it first aired,
mhm.
and yeah, I haven't seen it since. So going back is really awesome.
Yes, I agree. I agree very much. And yeah, so next week will be the last Wednesday we do this. I will be taking a couple weeks off for the holidays,
Hmm.
but next week we'll be doing episodes 4 and 5,
Hmm.
and yeah, so that will be fun. And then, like you started, well, first of all, let me thank everybody for joining us tonight. Time Prophet and Tommy Adam, Stieg, Solo Wooden, and Tony. Thank you guys for showing up in the chat, and anybody catching on the replay, thank you as well. Um, yeah, really appreciate all of you. And Vinny, if you want to take it away and tell them about the toy stream tomorrow, and then what we got going on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be doing collectible past and talking toys on Tommy's channel and my channel. We stream at the same time. Well, like we got the dual stream going. So however you want to watch, go ahead, tune in, subscribe, all that great stuff. Tommy, if you're still there, I already have. Oh, I got to upload the second one, but I do have both of my things filmed already, so that's a good thing. I try to get a little bit on top of it.
Nice.
So I'll see if I can squeeze one more in. It depends because again we've got some family over and holiday stuff. But yeah, and then Friday we're going to be talking about some crazy stuff. So if you guys are down for the Friday Underground stream, we got insane topics, and yeah, we'll be covering some of the Luigi situation, connections that he has with certain individuals. Again, not even going to say it on YouTube because we know how they are, but we'll probably talk about those floating things in the sky. People have been saying drones in Jersey or whatever, and it's not just Jersey. There's been a ton of them outside. I filmed a short just the other day and I put it up yesterday. So whatever's going on, the night skies are filled with these things everywhere. Very curious. Yeah, we'll be hitting. Oh, I will definitely be talking about Alex Jones. Great news. The judge sided with him regarding the that whole thing with the Onion that they were claiming that they had bought Infowars in his name and all that. Well, it took them 9 hours to break that down, and the judge ruled after 9 hours, and they went through everything. So not only did they prove that the Onion was they basically broke laws and the people behind it, because we also find out who the money guy was, and it happens to be Michael Bloomberg. This came out during all that. We also know that Alex Jones has been on the up and up about everything. He is not a bullshit artist or a salesman like that, because everyone was claiming he was taking all the money and all that. No, he wasn't. Every bit of money went back into Infowars in order to get their studios working, the satellite stuff, all that. That's what all of his merchandise is for. It goes straight back into the business, and they proved it in court. They proved all that stuff. So it's really amazing. And yeah, the people who were trying to take it and they were claiming that they had it, they're in major trouble. So we're going to break that down on Friday, which I'm really excited to talk about because had it not happened, our freedoms would have been in major jeopardy. They wanted to use him as the example, and I'm glad that they didn't, and they can't. So, like I said, there's a ton of stuff to hit on Friday with the whole the Friday Underground, and then yeah, Sunday back on my channel. It's going to be Trina, myself, Adam, maybe two other people. They couldn't make it last time, but we're going to be getting into episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Arcane, and yeah, the first three. Again, fantastic so far. Again, rewatching it all, brilliant. I have more info too on that whole thing too, and how much it actually costs to do the entire series, and more behind that, including they're doing 3 spinoffs. So yeah,
Wow.
it's amazing. I mean, I'll drop it now anyway. You know how much it costs to do 2 seasons of this cartoon?
I have no idea.
It's the most expensive animated anything ever made. $250 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And again, you're going to see the work that went into it as we watch the next 3 episodes. And yeah, so like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. Quick question, Trina. Are you going to be able to still stream on the 22nd?
Let me check my calendar. I don't know. I think I'm off that week. Um,
because we're doing yeah, we're doing Hannibal, um 4 and 5 on the 18th, and then
Yeah.
4 days later, are you able to finish off Arcane season 1?
Yeah, I'd probably be able to do Arcane. Yeah.
Okay. Just that's again, I don't want any major obligations, but that'll finish off 7, 8, and 9. So then that's season 1, and
Yeah.
then after the holidays, we could come back and do season 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I could probably. Yeah. I'd probably be able to do that.
All right, cool, awesome. So you heard it here first, folks. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Trina, this was fantastic.
It was so great. Loved doing this review with you. Thank you very much for joining me. And yeah, we will meet back again here next week for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hope you all have a great night.
Bon appetit.
Nice.